ARMY concerned. Jimin appears angry. Why did Jungkook touch his shoulder again? The subtle gesture that sent shockwaves through the fandom in a moment that took only a fraction of a second, but echoed like thunder across social media. Jungkook reached out his hand and touched Jimin's shoulder. It was brief, almost invisible, but the tremors it left behind were undeniable. Why did Jimin seem visibly tense? Was he angry? What compelled Jungkook to reach out not once, but twice? And more importantly, what did that touch really mean? This was not just another live stream. It was not a promotional campaign, not a press event, not even a planned appearance. Two men, seated casually beside each other, laughing, reminiscing, and chatting with millions watching live. But somewhere between the laughter and stillness, a gesture was made, a touch that has since gone viral and caused concern, speculation, and for many, a wave of unexpected emotion. Jimin's facial expression before the touch was enough to spark alarm among even the most grounded viewers. His brows slightly furrowed, lips drawn tight. There was tension in his shoulders, an air of fatigue or restraint that didn't go unnoticed. His body language was uncharacteristically closed off. Something felt off. And then, without warning, Jungkook, with a kind of gentle instinct honed not by training but by time, reached out and placed his hand on Jimin's shoulder. The internet held its breath. For a second, Jimin didn't react. Then, his shoulder twitched ever so slightly, as if flinching. Was it discomfort? Surprise? Or recognition? The ambiguity only fueled the emotional storm that followed. Viewers began dissecting the moment frame by frame. Fans who have followed them since their debut in 2013 knew exactly what that touch signified, because they've seen it before. And this time, it carried more weight than ever. This was the touch that Jungkook always reserved for moments of grounding. For moments when Jimin needed reassurance. For moments when words fell short but connection still found its way. But in 2025, after the long separations brought on by mandatory military service, a global pandemic, solo projects, and increasing public pressure, everything felt different. The silence had become louder, the gaps between their interactions wider. So when this familiar gesture emerged again, it was no longer ordinary. It was extraordinary. It didn't matter that the touch lasted less than a second. It didn't matter that it wasn't caught by all viewers immediately. It didn't even matter that Jungkook didn't say anything while doing it, because that's how it's always been. Words never needed to carry their connection. Their history, their shared experiences, their bond. It speaks louder than anything either of them could say aloud. But here's the twist. Fans are divided. Some are worried. Why did Jimin look so tense right before the touch? Why did he seem emotionally distant? Why did Jungkook need to reach out again? Was the first gesture not enough? Was Jimin rejecting the connection? Or was he simply overwhelmed? And if that touch was so natural, why did it feel like it came at such a critical moment? These are not idle questions. They reflect deep emotional investment from a fandom that has watched every moment, every smile, every tear for over a decade. The concern is real. The weight of the touch is real. And the uncertainty is palpable, because if there's one thing armies have learned, it's to watch everything. Every glance, every silence, every subtle movement. And in this moment, everything pointed to something unspoken, something heavy. Jungkook didn't reach for Jimin's shoulder in a way that screamed performance. It wasn't exaggerated or strategic. It was natural, too natural, like muscle memory, like instinct. The kind of gesture that only comes from knowing someone for years, knowing when to reach out without needing a reason. The kind of touch that says, I still see you. I still remember who you are. And the way Jimin responded? The initial tension in his shoulder gave way to the tiniest drop. His posture softened. His breath, barely perceptible, released. It wasn't dramatic, but it was there. And that's all it took. Some fans were quick to express alarm on social media. Was Jimin upset? Was Jungkook trying to defuse a private moment of tension in front of millions? Others countered with reassurance. That's just how they are. Jimin always holds things in, and Jungkook always knows when to reach out. But no matter the interpretation, one thing is certain. The moment was not meaningless. It was loaded. This is not the first time Jungkook has offered comfort through touch. In countless behind-the-scenes videos, concert clips, and fan-recorded moments, his hand has found Jimin's shoulder in quiet solidarity. During award shows, during rehearsals, during moments when everything was too much. And now, after all this time, he's still doing it. That says something profound. IT says that the bond has endured, but the concern is still valid. Because this time, things were different. This time, the tension in Jimin's expression felt real. This time, the timing of the touch, just as he seemed on the verge of something emotional, felt too specific to ignore. What was going through Jimin's mind in that second? What wasn't being said? Even now, armies are replaying the footage, looking for clues. Was it something said off camera? Was it a memory triggered? Was there a moment before the live began that shaped the interaction? No one knows for sure, and that's what makes it all the more gripping. The silence surrounding the moment only adds to its gravity. But perhaps the most powerful part of this entire exchange is that Jimin allowed it. He didn't brush Jungkook away. He didn't recoil. He allowed himself to be touched, and more importantly, he let himself be seen. In that single moment, he was vulnerable, and Jungkook responded not with words, but with presence. That's the kind of bond that doesn't vanish with time. It evolves. It survives. What we witnessed wasn't just nostalgia. It wasn't fan service. It wasn't a flashback to an era long gone. It was a current, living connection, one that has endured distance, silence, and separation. For those who followed them closely, the question lingers: is this a turning point? Are we seeing the beginning of a return, not just to the group, but to each other? Could this be the first real crack in the carefully curated walls they've both built around themselves over the past year? Or was it just a fleeting moment, a blip of familiarity in an otherwise cold reality? The truth is, no one knows. And that uncertainty is what makes it so haunting. Because if such a small gesture can evoke this much emotion, if it can reignite this much speculation and hope, what does that say about the depth of what they shared? What does that say about what might still remain? In the end, it's not just about a shoulder touch. It's about what's left unsaid, the silence that follows, the history that underpins it, the years of shared experiences condensed into 1 second of contact. That's what makes it unforgettable. As fans around the world continue to dissect the clip, analyze the footage, and share their thoughts, one thing is clear: something shifted. Whether it leads to reconciliation, rekindled closeness, or simply a fleeting reminder of what once was, the moment mattered. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough for now. Because in a world where everything is filtered, where performances are rehearsed, and where connections often feel manufactured, a single, instinctive gesture, subtle, sincere, and silent, can still carry more meaning than an entire press conference. And for armies, for those who have held on through all the noise and distance, it's a sign that hope is not misplaced. Oh yes, Jimin may have looked angry. Yes, he may have seemed guarded. But Jungkook reached out anyway. And in doing so, he reminded us all that even in the quietest moments, love doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be real, and that's exactly what this was. A real moment, a quiet signal, a promise not yet broken. In light of the previously discussed incident between Jungkook and Jimin, centered around a brief, instinctive shoulder touch, an essential and sober question must now be raised. Did this moment truly happen as perceived, or are we all witnesses to a carefully constructed illusion? The virality of the clip, the overwhelming emotional reactions, and the countless speculations that followed cannot, and must not, overshadow a necessary process of verification. In an era governed by digital immediacy, the line between reality and orchestration is no longer easily distinguishable. We must ask ourselves, are we responding to an authentic human interaction, or are we reacting to a narrative shaped, even subtly, by external interests and media manipulation? This incident, which emerged through social platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter, has spread rapidly and evoked strong sentiment. Yet the sources remain varied, unregulated, and in some cases, untraceable. Without a definitive account or corroborated context, how can we conclude with certainty that what we saw was a genuine moment rather than a manufactured spectacle? Is it possible that this emotional crescendo, this revival of connection in the public eye, was not incidental, but strategic? One cannot ignore the timing. The entertainment industry has always known how to capitalize on nostalgia, proximity, and curated vulnerability. Could the positioning of this moment be part of a larger agenda to re-engage the public's emotional investment in BTS as a collective, or perhaps in the individual dynamics of its members? Such possibilities must not be discarded without examination. Furthermore, the visual evidence, despite being circulated widely, is inherently subject to interpretation. A shoulder touch, in itself, is ambiguous. To some, it signifies reassurance. To others, it may appear as a mere habitual gesture. The emotions inferred from Jimin's body language, the supposed tension in his demeanor, or the subtle shift in his facial expression are all open to subjective reading. Are we projecting meanings based on prior familiarity with their history, or are we interpreting data that is genuinely and objectively observable? Consider this. Would such a minor action between two individuals who have spent over a decade together evoke the same intensity, if not for the lens through which we, as viewers, have been conditioned to see them? If this had occurred between two other artists with less documented closeness, would the public still erupt in similar emotional fervor? This reflection demands an acknowledgement of the parasocial bonds that exist between celebrities and their audiences, bonds that, while powerful, often blur the boundaries of objective judgment. In consuming this content, the public must also evaluate the potential consequences of sensationalizing a moment that may have been personal, private, or simply misinterpreted. Has the pursuit of viral narratives led us to strip individuals of their right to silence, subtlety, and ambiguity? Have we, in our hunger for connection and story, constructed meanings that were never there to begin with? This brings us to a critical juncture. What if the story being told, through edited clips, fan-made compilations, and emotionally charged tweets, is not the full story? What if, amid the digital storm, the actual context of the moment has been lost? If so, what responsibility do we, as consumers and commentators, bear in perpetuating possible misinformation? This is not to dismiss the emotional significance that fans experience. Rather, it is to challenge the uncritical consumption of media fragments. Every tweet, every reaction video, every trending hashtag adds another layer to a potentially distorted reality. If left unchecked, such accumulation may transform a small, ordinary interaction into a mythical event, one detached from truth and anchored only in collective speculation. Are we witnessing the truth, or merely what we want to believe is true? That is the core of our inquiry. As observers, we must exercise intellectual rigor. We must pause before drawing conclusions and question the very foundations upon which those conclusions rest. Have we considered alternative explanations? Have we acknowledged our own biases, emotional investments, and historical attachments to these individuals? In moments such as these, it is essential to ask, who benefits from our belief in this story? Is it the media platforms that gain traffic? The fandoms that find renewed purpose? The industry that capitalizes on re-engaged audiences? Or is it simply the algorithm, feeding us what we are most likely to react to? The truth remains elusive. The available footage lacks clarity. The original audio was incomplete. And most importantly, the individuals involved, Jimin and Jungkook, have not commented, clarified, or acknowledged the moment. In their silence, We are left to navigate a landscape of assumptions, interpretations, and emotionally driven narratives. Therefore, we urge the audience to engage with this moment not merely as spectators, but as critical thinkers. What do you truly believe happened in that live stream? Was it a moment of genuine reconnection? Was it a subtle reminder of their enduring bond? Or was it an expertly placed gesture meant to reignite interest and reshape public perception? We do not present these questions to sow doubt, but to cultivate awareness. In an age where media is instantaneous and emotion is currency, skepticism is not cynicism. It is responsibility. Before sharing, before reacting, before believing. Ask why. Ask how. Ask for whom this narrative serves, because ultimately, the question is not whether Jungkook touched Jimin's shoulder. The question is, what do we believe that touch means, and why are we so certain?